I'm Mike Seaman. I'm a realtor in Boise, and if you're waiting for rates to drop, don't do it. Notice how all I said was if you're waiting for rates to drop, don't do it. I didn't say buy now because maybe you shouldn't buy now. I don't know. Depends on where your motivation is. There's two reasons you shouldn't wait for rates to drop, and there's two reasons you should buy a house. Let's talk about those reasons you should buy a house first. Then we'll get into the two reasons you shouldn't wait for rates to drop. I got a really simple supply and demand. We're going to do a little bit of economy talk. Even though they're simple, they always get the best of me. We're going to do a little bit of math. I've already kind of done the math. We're going to talk about both of those things. I promise we'll be quick. Thanks for watching. Now, if you're looking at this, you're probably wondering, how do I buy a house, or who is this guy? If you're who is this guy, that's what you're wondering, you're not motivated. And that's fine, because there's two reasons to buy a house. One is you're motivated. You want to buy a house. And the other is you can afford it. You need to have both of those things work for you. Okay. Notice how I didn't say anything about the rate. Doesn't matter if it's 3% or 9%. Now, when the rates were 2.5%, I would have argued you should have bought anything because it doesn't matter what you buy. That's basically free money. If you look at real estate rules, laws, you read books, you talk to people, no one ever tells you buy a house when it's 7%, buy a house when it's 4%. What they should be telling you, and what you're hopefully learning, is you only buy a house when you can afford it and when you want to buy a house. If you're in your mom's basement, motivation is probably high. Can you afford it? Maybe you can. Now, rates are going to change and affect that affordability, sure. But if you're not motivated, don't buy it. So if you're watching this video thinking, who is this guy? Great. Learn about real estate, follow the channel, watch a few more things, figure this stuff out. But no one's trying to convince you anything. The only thing I'm really trying to maybe help you understand is if you wait for rates to drop, there's two reasons that's not going to work. Number one, you don't know when that's going to happen. You might think you do. You might be pretty good. But when is it going to happen? We have an election next year. We've got a war in Ukraine. We've got crazy weather happening. It's back to school, this, that, the Fed. Who knows? They're supposed to go down. They're supposed to do this. Well, I was looking at trends of like high fives, mid fives by the end of the year. And they've gone up since then. And now we're at close to 7.5. I don't think we're going to get down that low by the end of the year. That'd be a really steep drop like we've never seen. So it's really hard to predict it. And let's say you do predict it. What's going to happen? Everyone knows their rates are low. So guess what? They're all going to buy. Here we are with supply and demand graph. When demand for houses go up, so does the price. Okay, so if rates drop for you and you're waiting for this magical day next year when they drop down to 5%, what happened? Guess what? Demand is going to go up. Price is going to go up anyway. So are you okay with the prices now? Are you okay with your motivation now? Can you afford it? If you can afford it, buy now, or buy when you can afford it and it makes sense. It doesn't have to be now. Keep in mind too, this is a really simple graph. It doesn't take into account a bunch of stuff. Here's kind of this funny thing that happened last year. Last year's supply was double what this year's supply was. In July right now, homes available, but we had the same number of deals pending. Okay, so supply was double. Days on market is up now. So how does that happen? How does the supply now actually get lower but not drastically affect demand? Because the same number of deals are closing. Last year with higher inventory, higher supply, same number of deals is happening. So this is a very simple graph. Doesn't take into a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to refer back to it when I talk about interest rates going up because that's a really simple concept. This doesn't include other factors, and that's fine. My point is it gets complicated. If you wait for interest rates to drop next year, and they do drop next year, what's going to happen to the supply of homes? We have a bunch of new houses hitting the market now. There's a bunch of new construction happening right now. Right in downtown Boise, there's a huge parking garage in downtown Boise. Huge, it's 10 stories. That'll be online next year. What is that going to do to downtown? Put a bunch more cars there. I guess, is downtown going to be as desirable? Maybe. Are people going to want to live on the bench? Maybe not. Maybe that's going to affect demand. Maybe that's going to affect supply. There's a lot of things to consider. The rate is the simplest one. If rates go down, demand is going to go up, and that's going to go prices up too. Let's keep talking about rate just a little bit. We're close to 7.5% now. I got buyers telling me they're going to wait till 5%. Now, I hesitate to use the word buyers because that's someone who's probably not that motivated. If you're waiting for 5%, you're not motivated. No problem with that. But think about this. In the last 12 months, it's August 2023. In the last 12 months, 7.3 is the high, 5.8 was the low. So 1.5 percentage points in a year. So to get to 5, we have to go down 2.5% almost. That's a really steep drop. Maybe mid-5, maybe back down to 5.8. But to get to 5, those days, I think, are long in our future. And that's going to be a whole bunch of buying cycles between now and then. You're going to miss out on homes, and you're going to miss out on opportunities. So if you're not motivated, sit on the sidelines. If you are, give me a call. I'll help you figure out a way to do this, because the rate is still something that we can change. We can get it down to 6%. We can't change what the banks charge, but we can change how they affect you. So at 7.5% on a $500,000 loan, okay, average price in Ada County right now, $540,000, 10% down, rough math, called $500,000. $3,100 in monthly payment just for interest alone. That's a lot. At 6%, your payments is $2,500. That's a $600 savings. If your purchase price is $500,000 and the seller ends up dropping to $475,000, the monthly impact on the buyer is about $70. Okay, so $500,000 divided by either your 360 payments, 30 years, 12 months, $1,388 going towards your principal versus $1,319 at $25,000 price reduction. So if the seller is going to buy this down, they're going to spend $25,000 for the buyer to lower the price and for the buyer to get in. It doesn't really change anything for the buyer. It's $70. If they buy the rate down, if the seller gives a concession to the buyer to buy their rate down, they go from 7.5 to 6. All of a sudden, that's $600 a month. So don't let the rate deter you. Let your motivation and your affordability guide you. I can put you in touch with the lender. The lender can run these numbers for you. This is super simple. This doesn't account for insurance and for the principal. You have to add these together to get your payments. And there's other stuff I'm missing. Generally speaking, buying the rate down, still very common, still very helpful, and still not a reason to wait for rates to drop. You can drop them yourself, or better yet, have the seller drop them for you. Get your rate to lower. If you're waiting for rates to drop, it's going to affect demand. It's going to affect price. Now, your payments might still be affordable in there, and that's fine. But what's going to happen in a year or two? A lot of homes are going to come and go. If you see a house you like, it might be too late already. The market is still pretty hot. Days on market is coming down from historic, or coming up from historic lows. We're never going to get back to like what people consider a balanced market of like 4 to 6 months of inventory. Inventory is going to move quickly. People buy homes differently now. You're buying online. You've got 3D tours. You've got all these factors that are not in historical data from the 80s and 90s. We're realtors. We still use data from the 90s about trends and homes and the way people buy things. We couldn't see COVID coming. We couldn't see demand. Prices skyrocket like they did in Boise the last few years. Rates are up to 7.5%. I'm sure you've heard, oh, my parents had 19%. It's not that high. And that's why people don't talk about the rate. It's not about the rate. It's about the affordability. Price of the home is going to be obviously super important, but it's the monthly payment that you got to watch out for. So if you buy your rate down, you can get a more affordable monthly payment. Talk to me. I'll put you in touch with the lender. If you're waiting for rates to drop, don't do it. Okay? You can't predict when it's going to happen. And even if you're right and rates do drop, everyone is going to be affected the same way. So you got more to consider. What you should focus on if you're trying to buy a house is your motivation. Do you want to buy a house? If yes, talk to me. We'll help you buy a house. If no, keep watching. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. Do whatever it is. Questions? Call me. Bye.